Hello and welcome to VTV News in English, coming to you from Hanoi, Vietnam. In our main story for today, Chairman of the Standing Committee of Chinese National People's Congress Li Peng begins an official visit to Vietnam. Severe flood continues ravaging the Mekong River Delta region, and Vietnam's reaction to the U.S. House of Representatives' approval to the bilateral trade agreement with Vietnam and the passing of the Vietnam Human Rights Act. And here are the details. Chairman of the Standing Committee of China's National People's Congress Li Peng begins an official friendship visit to Vietnam today. The four-day visit is being made at the invitation of the Communist Party of Vietnam Central Committee and the National Assembly Standing Committee.
Right after his arrival, Chairman Li Peng was received by Vietnamese National Assembly Chairman Nguyễn Văn An and other officials of the National Assembly. Later, the two sides hold talks focusing on ways to further enhance the fine traditional friendship between the two countries. Chairman Nguyễn Văn An welcomed the visit by Mr. Li Peng and his spouse to Vietnam. He also congratulated the Chinese people for their achievements over the past 80 years under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. For his part, Mr. Li Peng expressed his elation to be here in Vietnam. He believed the visit would further expand and consolidate the relation between the two communist parties, two governments, two national assemblies, and two peoples. Receptions will be given to the Chinese guests tomorrow by Party General Secretary Nông Đức Mạnh, President Trần Đức Lương, and former Party General Secretary Lê Khả Phiêu. Mr. Li Peng will meet Prime Minister Phan Văn Khải and visit some locations. Vietnam and China have developed economic ties since 1991. To a trade turnover between the two countries has been valued at over $2 million.
According to Vietnam News Agency correspondent in New York, the U.S. House of Representatives yesterday approved an agreement to normalize trade relations with Vietnam. The House approved the bill on a voice vote. The measure now goes to the Senate, which is expected to approve it before adjourning by the end of October. The agreement, when taking effect, will boost U.S. business access to Vietnam. The Vietnam-U.S. trade agreement was signed in July 2000 in Washington. Reacting to the approval of the Vietnam-U.S. bilateral trade agreement and the Vietnam Human Rights Act by the United States House of Representatives on September the 6th, the spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry Phan Huy Thanh today said, Vietnam acknowledges the ratification of the Vietnam-U.S. bilateral trade agreement, the BTA, by the U.S. House of Representatives as a necessary step towards the enactment of the agreement. She went on to say that, on the other hand, we strongly reject the approval of the so-called Vietnam Human Rights Act by the U.S. House of Representatives. This document groundlessly distorts reality in Vietnam, cruelly intervenes into the internal affairs of Vietnam, runs counter to the United Nations Charter and the fundamental principles of international laws, and creates a dangerous precedent in international relations by attaching economic and trade ties to unacceptable political conditions. She reaffirmed that we strongly reject the Vietnam Human Rights Act and demands it be cancelled. Referring to the same issues, the National Assembly's Committee for External Relations in Hanoi today, in a statement said, Vietnam's National Assembly acknowledges the U.S. House of Representatives passing the Vietnam-U.S. bilateral trade agreement, the BTA, as a new move for the benefits of both countries. At the same time, Vietnam's National Assembly also expresses its discontent with the U.S. House of Representatives passing the so-called Vietnam Human Rights Act. A recently released statement stressed that this is a rude interference into Vietnam's internal affairs and a blatant violation of the fundamental standards of international laws, including the United Nations Charter, thus creating a dangerous precedent in the relations between sovereign nations. Vietnam's National Assembly strongly condemns and resolutely rejects the Vietnam Human Rights Act and calls on the public in the U.S. to stop the endorsement of this strong act. The statement concludes. Moving on to other news. Prime Minister Phan Văn Khải has urged the Central Coast Quang Binh Province to use its extensive coastline and numerous ports to develop an export-oriented economy, thus helping the province to become a more prosperous place. The government leader gave these recommendations to the provincial authorities during his working visit on September the 6th.
Prime Minister Khai said that despite some achievements in economic production such as industrial growth rate of 6% and services growth rate of 8.7%, the province is yet to produce a major hard currency earner nor build a region specializing in high-quality products. Mr. Khai praised the province for its high catch of seafood in recent months, which was up to 26.5% on year despite repeated natural calamities such as long spells of drought and heavy flooding. However, Guangbin still has not yet invested in either the food processing industry or the construction of infrastructure facilities, thus severely hampering its ability to develop its potentials such as seafood exports and tourism. The Prime Minister urged the provincial authorities to give top priority to the development of an export-oriented production in the coming years. He also recommended a speed-up of enterprises restructuring process and more investment in tourism and services. He also urged the province to conduct scientific researches so as to develop suitable crops and animal breeding in the province's western mountainous region.
Floods have claimed 44 lives, including 38 children in the Mekong River Delta region. Local reports said that the floods have to date swept through 21 districts of An Giang, Dong Thap, Long An and other southern Delta provinces. The natural disaster is also reported to have damaged more than 2,000 houses and submerged 93,000 other dwellings, 1,200 classrooms, 33 medical centers and 45 public offices. In addition, 800 kilometers of roads and highways have also been inundated and 75 bridges destroyed. The Southern Committee for Storms and Floods Control warns that there is no sign yet of a let-up in the rise of floodwater in both upper and lower parts of the Mekong River. As more severe flood water is forecast to hit the Mekong River Delta region in the next few days, the local people throughout the region are speeding preparations to confront possible disasters. Still, they are meeting great difficulties to protect their lives and properties due to the lack of funding.
In Tân Hồng border district of Dong Thap province, water level was reportedly half a meter higher than last year's reviewed period and has almost reached the peak point of last year's historic flood. Notably, this year's early flood is likely to develop more unpredictably than last year's, requiring careful preparations of the local people. At present, Tân Hồng is making concerted efforts to strengthen the local dike system, but